Hey guys, it's Woody, and if you've been around this channel for a while, you know I've done a lot of videos on life advice, stuff about love, stuff about relationship with parents, relationship with wife, loss of a loved one, depression, marriage and sex, and like things like that. I thought I'd shift a little bit and do a couple videos on professional life. Career changes, choosing a career, choosing a major, investing, finances, debt, things like that. Um, I thought it would be kind of fun, and I have thoughts about this sort of thing in my head all the time that I would love to share with you guys. As the title of this video implies, it's How to Be a Millionaire. How to Be a Millionaire in 23 years, something like that. It's roughly how the math works out. We'll go through it together. I don't have any secrets. What I have are, amongst people who know this sort of thing, kind of common thoughts, things that everybody knows. And I'm going to share them to you, show you the math, and teach you how it's correct. So if that interests you, if you'd like to be a millionaire 23 years from now, then hang out with me, get comfortable, and I'll show you how it works. How to get rich slow. So you might want to watch this portion of the video in HD. I know on my computer, when I flip it to 1080p or even 720, I can read text so much better. There's no secrets in this part of the video. These things are well known. Things like compounding interest, dollar cost averaging, investing in index funds. These are kind of cliches in the financial world. I didn't figure out anything special. I just learned it early and actually did it. And that's what I'm trying to provide to you guys. This is the S&P 500. These are the returns for the S&P 500. You can see some years it goes up, 16%. Some years it goes down, 17%. It goes up more than it goes down. There you have it. This CAGR number is the one that we're most interested in. And I'm going to go through two math exercises with you guys. And I hope that you have the patience to stick through this. If you watch the end of the video, you're going to set yourself up for a future of luxury. If you don't, then you might live week to week for the rest of your life. CAGR, let's talk. Imagine you have a $100 investment, and your first year you double that money, and then your second year you cut it in half. So what happens is the value goes from 100 to 200 back down to 100. Now let's take those gains or losses and average them. The first year you had a 100% gain. The second year you had a 50% loss. The average of those numbers is 25% gain, because you take 100 and then plus negative 50, which brings you 50, divided by the number of years, 2, is 25. If you take 100% gain and a 50% loss and average them, you get a 25% gain. But that's not really what happens to your investment. Obviously 100% gain and a 50% loss followed, one after the other, is a break even. 100 to 200, back down to 100. This CAGR represents the real return there. That's the number that we can actually use on this thing. You don't want your average return, because that doesn't do your thing. Hypothetically, if you have a 10% loss this year, you don't need a 10% gain to get back. You need like a 15% gain. So the CAGR number is the critical number that we care about most. Another thing I wanted to teach you about is dollar cost averaging, because, spoiler, what I'm going to ask you to do is save $1,000 a month for the next 23 years. Here's why it's nice to invest monthly. So work with me here. $1,000 a month investment. Let's pretend you're investing into this imaginary fund that costs $100 a share. So every month you get 10 shares, right? $1,000 a month, $100 a share. Every month you get 10 shares. At the end of the year, you have 120 shares, 10 times 12. You followed that. Now, let's say the market does what the market does. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And for half the months, instead of, what did we say, $100 a share, it's $200 a share. And for the other half of the months, instead of $100 a share, it's $50 a share. So sometimes it's double, sometimes it's half. Dollar cost averaging makes you smarter. What it does is, when it's double, you buy fewer shares. When it's double, instead of getting your $10 shares each month, you get 5 because the price doubled. And when it's half, instead of getting $10 each month, you get 20. So the 6 months you only bought 5 is 30 shares. The 6 months you bought 20 is 120 shares. Add them together and it's 150 shares. Compare that to before. I hope this isn't too dry. When the stock moved level, we got 120 shares at the end of the year. When the stock went up and down and up and down, we bought double when it was cheap. We bought half as many when it was expensive. We buy low, we sell high, right? You double down when the price is low. That's why dollar cost averaging is nice. The math makes you a smarter investor. So anyway, dollar cost average, it works out for you. And then the other nice thing about dollar cost averaging is that it is the way that you earn your money, right? You probably earn your money every week, 2 weeks, twice a month, whatever. It's nice to invest your money as you earn it, as opposed to like saving up some lump and dropping it in every year. So let's go back to this CAGR number and pop in some imaginary date ranges. All right. So if we were to invest in 1970 and calculate it, then the CAGR, the true return, is 10.4. If we were to invest in 1980, 11.8. And sadly, this doesn't go to 2014. You see, it stops at last year because it would. We're having a good year this year, and it makes my argument stronger. But we'll just go with whatever it is. If you invest in 1990, then you can see it dropped quite a bit. I know we've had like rocky years in the last couple, but this is a bad one. 3.55 if you started in 2000, and if you started in 2008, I think that like is a way to sort of tweak the numbers. No, maybe it's 2009. There. You see what happens? This 2008 was a yucky year. If you were to start in 2009, you'd look like a genius. If you were to start in 2008, you'd look like a fool. But this hypothetically invests on January 1st every year. If you were to dollar cost average, you'd look a little smarter, but it's hard to do those numbers all the way through. Anyway, I think the number I need is 1991. That is 22 years. And that will give you a return of 10.05. So here we are, 10.05. We're going to start with $1,000. We're going to put in $1,000 every month. And we are, for all intents and purposes, a millionaire. If you go to 23 years, you overshoot it. If you go to 22 years, you're off. So here we're off by, I guess, 31 grand. And at 23 years, we're too high by 83,000. So at 22 years of doing this, you're a round-up millionaire. Congratulations. The reason this happens is not your deposit. That's the thing that I'm trying to drill in the second half of this video. It's about compound interest. It's about your money earning money for you. And there are a million cases where this works, where life is just a little easier to those that already have. Your bank works that way. I don't want to make this about me, but just recently I needed new deposit slips and they said it was $37. And then the banker in the back recognized me and he was like, no, waive that. There's a million like fees and like lack of interest. Like it's so much easier to get ahead when you're already ahead than it is in the first place. And compound interest is the most extreme example of that. And by the way, this isn't supposed to be about me. It's supposed to be about math. Look at this orange bar here. This steady part is the amount that you've deposited, $1,000 a month. And you can see in the beginning, your deposit represents almost everything you own. If you put 60 grand in, you only have 18 grand in interest. It's 18 grand of free money, money that the market earned for you without you having to work. But the bulk of it was money that you denied yourself. If you scooch ahead, to 20 years instead of 5, you've put in 240 grand, right? But you've earned 530,000, right? more than twice as much as you put in yourself. And these numbers just keep going. I'm covering the chart, but look at the shape of this thing, right? It's exponential. It just keeps going. If we were to change this, so look at this. At 22 years, you're almost a millionaire. It took 22 years to get to just under 1 million. 8 more years and you're at 2.3, right? The second million, let's figure out the actual number. Is it 28? No, 29. Okay. So it took, what was it, 23 years, or 22 years to earn your first million, and then 7 more to earn your second. It's because of this exponential number, right? It's because of the way this keeps growing, the way that it keeps skyrocketing. It's almost flat at first and then boom. That's how compound interest works. It's because your money is earning your money for you. That's how you become a millionaire. That's how this thing goes. If I were to change this number to 40 years, right? From 30, it's 6.4. Look at what this is doing. You know, your deposits almost seem unimportant at this point. It's really about your interest earning interest. It's about your dividends paying dividends. That's where the money comes from. That's why, you know, the rich get richer. It's because to the market, turning 50,000 into 100,000 is the exact same thing as turning 1 million into 2 million. In either case, it's 100% gain. I think if you get a 12% rate of return, your money doubles in about 7 years. I think that's about right. You can check it. But if you get a 12% return, your money doubles in about 7 years. If you have 50 grand in there, you earn 50 grand more. If you have 1 million in there, you earn 1 million more. That's the big deal. If you want to know how to get rich slow, you just pay yourself first. Now, a lot of people think that getting rich is about how much you earn, and it's really not. And this is almost getting into another video topic. It's really about how much you save. You know, when I was a junior accountant working at my father's firm, I did the return of a school teacher who was worth millions. And she went kind of extreme in how much she deprived herself of, you know, life's little joys and, you know, spending on her own. But she was a multimillionaire. That was kind of a neat trick for a school teacher who doesn't earn a lot. And then I saw another guy. He was a surgeon. He earned $500,000 a year, and this is like the 90s. And that guy was worried about tax increases and wasn't sure how he was going to afford his second beach home. So, you know, she was worth a lot more than he was, even though he earned probably 10 times what she did, because he spent his money and she saved it. And that's the difference. If you pay yourself first, if you earn 50 grand a year and just say, all right, for all intents and purposes, I earn 38 and I'm going to take 12 of that and set it aside, $1,000 a month. And then just live that lifestyle. When you go from 50 to 70, you say, all right, for all intents and purposes, now I earn, is it 58? Yeah, it is. 58. Even though I earn 70 grand, I live like I earn 58. And that way I can put my 1,000 aside a month. And in 2 decades-ish, I'll be a millionaire. And that's the trick. Let's do some things here. Let's say you start this path when you're 18 years old. Oops, I meant to say when you're 18 years old, and you do this until you're 40, right? So that's 22 years. You become roughly a millionaire, right? If you wait not when you're 18 years old, but instead when you're 28 years old, instead of being roughly a millionaire, you're roughly you're worth almost 300 grand, which is great, you know, but it's not a millionaire, right? The difference between starting when you're 18 versus 28 is enormous. And there are a lot of people who wait. There are a lot of people who say, you know, we're going to put it all on the kids now. We're going to put it all in the house now. We're going to put it here. We're going to put it there. But they're not saving. It's time to save now. It's time to start early. You know, even if you waited, so let's say that you did it when you got out of college at 22 and, shucks, I've forgotten what I'm doing here. At 22, then if it was 12 at 28, Oh, it was versus the 22 years. Yeah. So it would be 18. I think I'm doing this right. If you started when you were 22 instead of 18, instead of being almost a millionaire, you're worth 610. You're 4 years away from being worth the rest of it. That little delay is a big deal. Start now, invest, dollar cost average, S&P 500, and you're set. Now, future returns are not a promise past returns are not a promise on future. You can't tell exactly what's going to happen by looking in the rearview mirror and all sorts of other cliches. Don't sue me if you don't make money, if you don't become a millionaire. But this is a concept that's time tested since the 1970s or earlier. And none of this is get rich quick. None of this is a secret. It's just the math. And if you want to know the real secret to accumulating wealth, it's paying yourself first, acting as if you earn a little less than you really do, and over time, you'll be set. So next week, I'll probably hit my Twitter account at WoodysGamertag and ask people, or I'll give people a couple options on topics, and we'll choose them together. So if you're interested in that, you can follow me at WoodysGamertag. If you like this video, then drop it a like. If you dislike this video, then drop it a dislike, and have a good day.